This week, Conflict Zone is in Warsaw, where the Polish government is facing mounting criticism from the EU over its record on democracy and human rights. My guest is the Deputy Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki. Is his government ready to accept the concerns voiced by Brussels or continue to reject them out of hand? Mateusz Morawiecki, welcome to Conflict Zone.
Hello, nice to be here with you.
We've seen some pretty harsh language between your government and the EU over your record on democracy and human rights. Last month, your foreign minister actually referred to Donald Tusk, president of the European Council, as an icon of evil and stupidity. How do these slanging matches help your relations with the EU?
I think that on both sides the language is sometimes too strong and sometimes it does not help in our relationships, but also the asymmetry of perception is a very important thing. We have to do some changes which in Germany was done 25 years ago, like for instance decommunization of the former Deutsche Republic was done in 1991, 1992.
East Germany.
In East Germany, and
yeah.
we would like to do the same here.
The EU doesn't seem to see it in the same terms as you, does it? I mean, they've called it a systematic threat to the rule of law in Poland. This was from the European Commission.
Well, that's very important. That's very interesting because when, for instance, in the Czech Republic or in Germany, there was this vetting or verification of the past of the professors in the academia, in the world of academia, this was right. When we tried to do the same in Poland, this was not right. So let's have the same standards applied for all the countries.
But it seems your attitude to criticism is that the EU should take it somewhere else. Zbigniew Ziobro, your justice minister, compared the EU's oversight to Nazi Germany, Nazi occupation of Poland during the Second World War.
I would definitely advocate for simply the same standards. Like for instance, if we see the situation in Germany, you were able in 25 years ago to make.
You don't apologize for statements like that.
Well, I think that in the context of different discussions, different statements are made. But at the end of the day, it's about equal treatment of all the member states of the European Union.
But it's also about listening to the legitimate criticisms from the European Union when you have signed up to the values of the European Union and accepted them.
If the criticism is legitimate, I'm welcoming this criticism because the democracy and liberal economy, liberal democracy is all about being open to criticism.
So as long as you like it, it's fine. But if you don't like it, it's illegitimate criticism.
If I don't like it, it's legitimate criticism as well. All I advocate for is also a very equal treatment. Like for instance, if in Germany a year ago in Köln, there were some events which were really not appearing on the surface because all the media treated this as a taboo. It was not. This was not criticized by the European Union or European Commission.
But it was criticized widely in Germany itself. So perhaps the Commission didn't need to weigh in.
Many weeks after it happened.
But you accept the right of the European Union to say what it feels is going on, and they've been pretty consistent. They've been pretty consistent in their belief that the rule of law, order, and democracy is under threat here in Poland. Have they just misunderstood the situation? They got it all wrong.
Yes, they completely misunderstood the situation.
The UN has misunderstood as well.
Let's start with the constitutional tribunal. In the Netherlands, in Switzerland, in Luxembourg, there is no constitutional tribunal, and even in the Netherlands, there is a law which does not allow the judges to decide on the legislation issued by the parliament.
So why, if this is all right, why does the outgoing president of your constitutional court say the aim of the legislation that you've introduced is to destroy the court and to create a kind of private council for our beloved leader? I think he means Mr. Kaczynski, your party leader.
This is a very interesting persona, Mr. Rzepliński, because he's in fact a politician. He was not only a chairman of the Constitutional Tribunal, he was a politician who tried to support their leaders. To understand what is happening in Poland, we have to make one statement. For the first time over the last 27 years, or not for the first, but for the first time so strongly, the Vox Populi, so a very strong voting in favor of different solutions has been made. And all the established parties, all the political establishment and economic establishment, and also judiciary establishment, which was not changed at the beginning of 90s, they are defending the ancient regime.
It's one thing, Minister, to reject the criticism from abroad, but your own ombudsman, who is charged under the Constitution for protecting rights and freedoms in this country, spoke of attempts to paralyze the Constitutional Court in Poland. So you haven't convinced him either. No, and this is a man with a pretty respectable job inside the Polish state.
Person, if you talk about Ombudsman
Adam
Bodnar,
yes.
He is at the very forefront, is in the avant-garde of fighting for the previous establishment.
Oh, so he's politically tainted.
Oh, he's completely politically tainted.
So
he's not
anybody who's against you is politically tainted or misunderstanding Poland. You just reject criticism. You're perfect.
Not at all.
The state's perfect.
Not at all. If you asked anybody who really understands Polish politics, if Ombudsman is politically tainted or not, 99% would be telling you, of course he is from the previous establishment. Of course he is completely left-wing. So if from such a person you cannot
all his arguments against the government you dismiss because they're politically tainted.
No, not all. If we talk openly and if we talk sine ira et studio, of course we can understand all sorts of different criticism. I'm just telling you that to understand the situation in Poland, one can imagine that there was this post-communist era frozen for 25 years, and now this Sturm und Drang period started in Poland, and this is a completely different approach to many issues, like to institutions. Let's look at the court and the issues surrounding the court. Because on the one hand, you say everything is fine with the court, but we have a tribunal president elected by what the EU considers a questionable procedure, another judge elected on a legal basis that's found to be unconstitutional, a challenge to the election of 3 sitting judges 7 years after that election took place. Why was not European Commission so loud and vocal in the summer of 2015 when all the political parties which were ruling back then were electing judges completely in an unlawful way?
Well, they are now.
Why were they silent? Well, they are now, but we are asking why they were silent just 1.5 years ago, when such a drastic breach of the law happened.
But you reject that as well. Minister, you're the largest net recipient of EU funds. You get a sizable sum of money. Something like 100 billion has been promised between 2014 up to 2020. You and other members in Eastern Europe were given a pretty blunt warning by the French president the other day, who said Europe isn't a cash box. It's not a self-service restaurant. A Europe where you come and take what you need, where you take your structural funds or get access to the internal market and then show no solidarity at all in return.
French presidents are known sometimes for very strong words. I remember Jacques Chirac in 2003.
So you dismiss those as well?
Just bear with me for 2 seconds. Jacques Chirac saying in 2004 that, or 2003, that we lost our opportunity to be silent, we in the Central Europe. So this is not equal treatment and not level playing field.
But not only are you taking the
last
money,
one, I would say in the Treaty of Rome we had those 4 famous freedoms: freedom to provide services, movement of migrant workers, movement of capital and goods, and 3 of them are working very, very well. 3 of them which are working in favor of richer countries, goods, capital, and people. And the last one, which could work very much in favor of the Central European countries, it's maybe 20% working, the freedom to provide services. So I would say that we have to really rethink what was not implemented from the Treaty of Rome.
You're talking about a rethink. You're demanding basic changes to the EU itself, your structure, its decision-making process. Your leader, Mr. Kaczynski, said he wanted to see a new EU treaty.
Many people would say these days that
these are a lot of demands, but the fact is you're among the loudest critics, you and the Hungarians.
No.
Your model for change is that of the self-declared illiberal democracy Hungary, isn't it? Because last September your party leader, Mr. Kaczynski, said, we are learning from Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary. We are learning from his example.
What Hungary has done, they have done lots of good things to bring the new balance, because it was completely tilted towards selling all the assets to foreign companies, and the ownership in Hungarian economy after 25 years of transformation was in 90% in hands of foreigners. So Viktor Orban is trying to bring some more balance into this.
Minister, what Hungary has done is get itself condemned by a dozen countries last year in the UN's peer review process for, among other things, increasing hostility towards the media and civil society and intimidation and reprisals against government critics. And you seem to like that model. No. You seem to like that model.
I will answer in a following way. What's the percentage of media in Poland or in Hungary? I don't know precisely the situation in Hungary 5 years ago, but in Poland, in the hands of only one group? I can answer this question. 95%. Is this a balanced media approach?
Is it a balanced media approach when you force out or fire journalists from the public media in this country? 220, according to Reporters Without Borders, 220 journalists
only 20% or maybe 25% of what our predecessors done. Why were you not asking our predecessors those questions 8 years ago or 15 years ago? Why were you happy with post-communist governments? And are you not so happy? I think that we have to all rethink our relationship, because we are very much
So all these people are wrong. The UN has criticized you, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, they criticize you.
Now is the surprise for you. International Monetary Fund and the World Bank, when I was visiting them for a couple of
days, the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights.
They were very much in favor of our responsible development plan, because it is bringing social inclusion. It is addressing inequalities. In Poland, we were going too much into oligarchic system. Was this the right direction?
Have you not shared by the treaty body that monitors compliance with your signature on the International Covenant for Civil and Political Rights?
No. We were asking those bodies to come to us, like the Venice Commission. But at
who've
the
also
same
criticized
time,
your moves on the Constitutional
But at the same
Court.
time, significant part of this was implemented. So we are on the same hymn sheet, or very close to each other right now. But why not to take into account those huge international institutions like IMF and the World Bank, which were praising us for what we've done in terms of social environment?
You don't get a lot of praise, Minister, for your attitude to migrants. The Ombudsman, Mr. Bodnar, who you say is politically tainted, spoke in October about quite open hatred towards migrants and refugees in public life, harassment, physical attacks, hate crimes towards migrants.
He must be kidding in
And
what he
insufficient
was saying,
reaction
because
from the public
when I compare
authorities.
what was happening in terms of Poland, comparing to Germany or comparing to France in terms of hatred or hate crimes in the United Kingdom against Poles or some other CE citizens, this is a completely different picture. In our situation, we are accommodating hundreds of thousands of refugees from Ukraine, from the war areas of Ukraine, in eastern part of the Ukraine.
You have an organization called Never Again Association, which tracks racist and xenophobic incidents in this country.
So, yeah.
They say they used to record between 5 and 10 such incidents a week. Now they're recording that many in a single day. Recently, they say we've had problems keeping up with and gathering and registering all the information we get because there is so much of it.
And do you know how many of them they are recorded in Germany and in France?
I talked to Germany about what happens in Germany. Minister, I'm talking to you about what happens in Poland.
But all is relative. You have to compare. If you ask in Brazil, it would be probably daily hundreds or thousands.
But
so
your reaction, the reaction of your government to what is going on there, was to shut down the main body for preventing such incidents. April last year, you closed the Council for the Prevention of Racial Discrimination, Xenophobia, and related intolerance. You did that without providing another body to take its place. Why? If you're taking these events seriously.
In the overall scheme of things, we are taking this very seriously, because what brings security to the country is the quality of your police, is the quality of your services, special services, and so on. And given all the recent polls, the level of security in the society increased. People feel more secure, and in Germany, in France, in Italy, people feel less secure. Why is this so?
The tens of thousands we've seen marching on the streets of Warsaw to protest one or other of your political moves, they feel more secure?
Which is the sign of democracy.
More secure?
That let them
it's a sign they feel democracy is under threat, Minister.
No. Here is again your the not so objective treatment. 3 years ago, you know what the demonstrations were on the street of Warsaw? Hundreds of thousands of people. You have hardly noticed them. Today there are tens of thousands. You are right. Every now and again, I have not seen them, by the way, for the last 6 months. But maybe there will be another demonstration, which is a sign of democracy working in Poland.
The UN minister has also criticised your party's attitude to migrants and expressed concern at what he called statements by state authorities in which they refuse to accept refugees of the Muslim faith.
We are accepting actually lots of immigrants, predominantly from lots of refugees. Migrant workers is the one thing, but actually tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, are refugees from Ukraine. So
but your party leader in 2015...
So we believe that Europe has its borders. At the very south, there is a pressure from North Africa. In Greece or in Bulgaria, there is pressure from Middle East.
But you don't want Muslims. You specifically said you don't want Muslims.
We do accept lots of
Mr.
Muslims as
Kaczynski
well.
says Muslim refugees would threaten Poland's security.
We do accept lots of Muslims as well, but not as many as in Germany, because you are much richer countries, because you didn't have 50 years of communism.
So why did the Vatican, before the Pope's visit here last year, issue a statement criticizing what it called an artificially created fear of Muslims in Poland? Why did the Vatican feel it necessary to talk to you like that?
I don't know. I think this is one of the most secure countries. Remember World Youth Day with Pope Francis, actually with Vatican presence here, millions of people in Poland and 0 accidents, 0 crime. This is the proof in the eating of our security.
Even the Pope himself had to remind you in Krakow. He reminded you a merciful heart opens up to welcome refugees and migrants.
Which we are doing, hundreds of thousands, as I said
This to a government. Your Prime Minister said in March last year, I say very clearly that I see no possibility at this time of immigrants coming to Poland.
And they are coming in hundreds of thousands.
Did she say it or didn't she say it?
We have registered 1 million Ukraine, 1.3.
Did she say it or didn't she say it?
Well, I don't know in what context.
23rd of March last year.
Probably if you're quoting right, but this is in the context. And I'm telling you the whole context. The whole context was that over the last 12 months, we've accepted 1.2 million of immigrants. Out of them, our guesstimate is 100 to 200,000 refugees from the war areas. This is our contribution to easing the tensions in Europe, isn't it?
Is it? Is it easing?
Yeah.
Is it easing the tensions to try to introduce tightening of restrictions on abortion, to try and?
That's a completely different topic.
Yes, it is.
Is this part of the European Union remit?
It's something that people have expressed concern on.
And
you've seen the demonstration. You had to back down. You had to back down on the new laws.
And look, what was the situation?
Because of tens of thousands of women marching.
Give me 20 seconds. Give me 20 seconds.
At least.
Okay. The government has not submitted any legislation about this. The parliament and the majority has not submitted any legislation. All what happened was that one quite radical NGO has submitted legislation, and we have promised before that if there is a legislation based with at least 100,000 of signatures from our citizens, we will give it a go in the parliament. So we have done this. It was not the project of the government. It was not the project of the parliament.
And it wasn't a project of the government either.
And we've stepped back.
It wasn't a project of the government to try to limit reporters' access inside parliament.
Access of media.
Yes.
It was your project. It was a project from some part of the majority party, and we have stepped back. We have
and to limit freedom of assembly on the streets. You've
You've
already voted the first reading.
Absolutely not. No. You see, it's another very good example. Thank you for this, because it's another very good example of misunderstanding. It's not the freedom of assembly.
Misunderstood country,
No,
Minister. You're very misunderstood.
It is so. My invitation to you is read more newspapers from both sides, not only the liberal media. Read also the other media. Audiatur et altera pars, as our Roman friends 2,000 years ago said, which means the freedom of assembly. It's not limiting, it's the opposite. You know what was the project about? The project was about
saying you couldn't have a demonstration.
You couldn't have two demonstrations
at the same time.
I can give you a very good example.
And the church.
I can give you a very good
demonstration.
No, not
at all.
Not at all.
Primacy.
If there is a completely leftist demonstration, in one place for last couple of months, we would allow this demonstration to be forever. This was the project to create more security. Do you remember
the rest
huge
of the world
demonstrations?
Isn't buying this.
Do you remember?
The world isn't buying.
No. At least 2/3 of the population in Poland are buying this.
And human rights
which is
organizations are not buying it.
No, they
misunderstand as well.
No. Do you remember demonstrations 2 and 3 years ago on the September 11th, which is the Independence Day in Poland? There were huge riots on the streets during the times of our predecessors. Why was that? Because 3 or 4 demonstrations were meeting with each other in one place. And all the changes which we wanted to implement in the new legislation on assembly was to separate them. Isn't it a good move?
That's not what your critics say.
I know.
They say it's you saying who can demonstrate where and under what conditions, and giving the responsibility to central government and taking it away from local governments.
So let me express this very, very loudly. Everybody can demonstrate whatever they want, apart from communist and Nazi opinions. Okay, everybody, because this is the country law. Communists and Nazi are crime, murders. We don't allow for demonstrations of that kind. Everything else, they can demonstrate wherever they want, provided that they are not clashing with other demonstrations.
Minister, you're the Law and Justice Party here. That's the name.
I'm a fresh member of Law and Justice Party.
You are fresh.
Before that,
you are a fresh member.
25 years in the business.
I think it was your father who got up in November 2015 and said, law is important, but law is not sacred. The good of the nation is above it. So
Sure.
your Law and Justice Party doesn't accept the primacy of law?
No. Exactly like the famous German lawyers, Udidiv Habio and some others, they said that the positive approach to law has to end, has to stop at some moment, because
You're saying something's more important than the law?
Of course.
Why?
The law is not most important. Life of people, security.
Dangerous road to go down.
No. Well, like I don't want to be going too.
We're normally told that nobody is above the law and nothing is above the law. But you're putting in abstracts here.
No. Okay, so let me be very
concrete. The good of the
concrete.
nation, as interpreted by the government.
Let me be very
or any other
concrete. Let me
dictator.
be very precise, not abstract, as it was. In Nazi Germany, the law was very much observed.
You're not in Nazi Germany. You're in
But
democratic Poland.
I'm giving you a drastic example, because if everything was under the umbrella of law done in the 30s and in the 40s, and this law, and this is what the Nazi Germans in the Nuremberg courts, they were actually defending. This was law. This was law. I was actually doing everything.
You need to compare like with like.
You are saying
not
abstract,
Nazi German.
abstract. You are saying abstract. This is not abstract.
You still
this
respect the law.
Legal positive.
You still respect the law.
Of course,
All
we
right.
respect the law.
Minister.
Law and justice. Law and justice. Not only law. Justice is very important.
Your critics are not
because
convinced.
During the 25 years of the post-transformation, there was very little justice, and very bad people were hiding behind the law.
Exactly what your critics say now. Minister, thanks very much
Thank
for being
you
on
very
Conflict
much.
Zone.
Thank you.
Thank you.